Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the Sports Card Advantage podcast. My name is Jeff. I'm joined by my co-host and friend, Bunk. Bunk, how you doing today?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Good. All right, so since this is our first episode, we're going to do some introductions, give you guys a little bit of information about who we are, what we collect, and why you should be listening to us. First and foremost, in my PC, I have Christian Pulisic, U.S. men's national team and Chelsea soccer player. I have Jason Dominguez, prospect for the Yankees, and just started J.J. Watt, huge fan of Watt, and starting to collect his cards. I do have some other interests, but nothing that I'm really collecting too heavily. A little background on myself. I've been in the financial trading markets pretty much my entire adult life. So we will be looking at some charts of cards, trying to help you guys analyze price data and see some good buying opportunities. Bunk, I'll kick it over to you. Give us some information.
Yeah, I've been collecting since I was probably 5 or 6 years old. I remember my first pack of cards that I got in a grocery store. My mom bought them for me, and I've been addicted ever since. My main PCs, I like to player collect. I have over 1,500 unique Adam Dunn cards.
Did
Some of you
you
are gonna have to
did
Google him.
can we clarify? You did just say Adam Dunn, correct?
The big donkey, yes, sir.
Okay.
Um, Big Yankee fan, so I'll pick out some Yankee cards I like here and there, but I have not identified another huge player collection like I have of Adam Dunn. I mainly just build sets right now. Big into Bowman's Best refractor sets and things of that nature.
And your romantic love affair with Derek Jeter.
We don't discuss that, but yes, it's real.
All right, thank you. And can you give us a little information as far as what you do for work and why
Oh
that's
yeah, I
important for
mean,
this?
by day when I'm not wasting time collecting, selling, and trading cards, I'm a physical therapist.
So, for those of you listening to the podcast, we will be talking a little injury stuff here and there. I'm going to consider Bunk the Stefania Bell of the Sports Card Advantage podcast. So we're going to get into today's show. The format of the show is pretty simple. We'll have a topic at the beginning of the show, which just general sports card information, just shooting the shit as far as everything going on in the sports card world and relevant topics. We'll move into a couple of segments on what we feel are good investments, good flips, as well as some lottery picks in regards to stuff that you can pick up cheap that could have some big upside. Then we'll move into a little bit of Sports Card 101. We know there's a lot of people getting into the hobby that don't have any idea what they're doing, so we really want to try to help educate them along the way. We'll close with a hot take, or that's a bet. Bunk and I don't always see eye to eye. So every now and again, we're going to throw a little wager on what we think might happen with a certain player or card. And we'll close it out with some questions and comments from the Peanut Gallery, where we get you guys to message us on email or through social media, and we'll pick out some of those questions to answer on the show. Before we get started, we will start with a little disclaimer. Bunk and I are both adults, and we're going to be using adult language from time to time. So if you have young children, you don't want them to hear certain words, throw the earmuffs on, or make sure you're listening to this with them out of the room. And then also just a little bit of a disclosure. Everything we talk about is for entertainment purposes only. We are not professional financial advisors by any stretch of the imagination. So anything that we talk about, if you want to go out and buy it, please do your own due diligence and research before purchase.
I mean, I collect Adam Dunn. That wasn't a really good financial decision.
Yeah, no, not so much. The big donkey, as you say, is worth a ass at this point in time. So yeah, let's jump in. One of the biggest topics right now that's being debated in the sports card world is, are sports card overvalued? Over the last year or two, we've seen 10x, 20x, 50x in the sports card world and on certain cards. For example, the Michael Jordan card 86 Fleer rookie was you could get it for $200,000 in a PSA 10 a couple months ago. It just sold for 730. That kind of increase in value is absolutely insane. It's unheard of in the financial markets and across any other investment class. So the question is this going to last? Are we going to see the card market continue to boom? How long are we going to see that happen? So let's get into this as a conversation. Bunk, what are your thoughts right now?
I mean, you can make the argument we're still in the infancy of the boom. I mean, it's just the exposure on social media now, all sorts of celebrities, professional athletes themselves getting involved in it. I don't see an end anytime soon. I wouldn't be afraid about a bubble bursting on you in the next couple months.
I don't disagree. I do think that there are going to be ebbs and flows like any other financial market. I think you're going to see some pullbacks here and there. We're going to get into that here in a little bit, talking about modern basketball. And just for those of you who don't know, the difference in modern versus vintage is anything post 2012 is considered modern. Is that correct? And anything pre 1980 something is vintage. You remember what that is off the top of your head? The classifications?
Yeah, I mean, me personally for baseball, it's 1980 and earlier is vintage. Yes.
Is vintage. Okay. So I think, what are they calling 2012 and forward is like ultra modern. So,
ultra modern.
All right. So we'll use that. Anything 2012 and forward is ultra modern. So we'll be talking about the ultra modern basketball market versus vintage. But you just saw Kevin Durant, Logan Paul and a couple of other people invest $40 million in golden auctions. Those are the guys that sold the Jordans, the two most recent Jordan PSA 10s. So big money's coming in. And I think when big money's coming in, we're going to still see this market continue to boom. I don't foresee it crashing out of nowhere unless, Bunk, you want to talk about the last card market crash?
Well, yeah, and to your point earlier, I think some of the early panicking going on about bubbles bursting. I think you're just seeing, to your point of ebbs and flows, is just the money shifting around. I think you're going to demonstrate this later about how it's maybe shifting over to a modern currently, but it's not like everything's exploding all at once. You're going to see some things explode, and then I think the same money just shifts its way around to different places, in the marketplace. But yeah, as far as when I started collecting, it was pure overproduction. The companies got greedy and they're making crazy amount of print runs on stuff, and it eventually just fell apart on them. And then you had a lull for about 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. The junk wax era, I believe, as it was referred to. And it's going to be really interesting to see the card companies. The card companies are making money hand over fist right now, but they are companies nonetheless, and they need to show growth. And if they continue with their same production runs year over year, unless they have innovation, growth, additional products, they're going to be stagnant, and they don't want to be stagnant either. So it's going to be really interesting for them to walk a fine line of having some rarity and scarcity in the card market so that they maintain value.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to do that. I mean, look at all the online exclusives that exist now, and the different subsets under that category alone. I think it's given buyers and collectors all sorts of opportunities to pick kind of their niche and how they want to develop their collection, and both parties benefit.
Yeah, you're seeing a constant search for undervalued cards. We're hearing about explosions in UFC, WWF, Pokemon. I mean, anything was printed on cardboard in the last 50 to 60 years, people are looking into and digging out of their closets and seeing if it's worth any money, and some of it is.
And I think that's why you're seeing some of the money shift around. You're going to see the ups and downs, because that's where people are finding the next rare thing. And then and if you're someone who is worried about the bubble bursting or when's the market going to end, I mean, that's where you go. You're going to search out your serial numbered cards, your short prints, your lowest numbered things, because at the end of the day, scarcity is going to be the value. And then if you're me and you're collecting Adam Dunn, you don't care.
Yeah, no,
you'll buy anything,
because you and like Adam Dunn's kids are the only people collecting Adam Dunn.
That is not true. There are people bidding on my Adam Dunn cards.
Guy,
So
yeah,
someone else buys them.
That's Adam Dunn's kids and his wife are bidding on your Adam Dunn cards, or the 4 fans in Cincinnati that remember when he was good.
You played for a few teams, sir.
Well, anyway, on to other more relevant topics other than Adam Dunn. We will pretty much wrap this segment up. I mean, the bottom line here is that we don't feel that the market's going to go anywhere anytime soon. If you're scared about buying at the top of a market, just make sure you're looking at prices. Wait till things settle down a little bit. If something is screaming up, like vintage basketball is right now, you may want to look at a different niche, or wait until it settles down and until it creates a new baseline. You don't ever want to be the one that's buying at the top of the market. So there's a lot of tools that we'll talk about in today's 101 section of how to comp cards and how to look at values and charts of cards so that you make sure you're not buying at the top. But as an overall, this is a global marketplace. We are nowhere near approaching a bubble. I would say even next 3 to 5 years will be strong, and it's going to be crazy. Baseball starting now, values of cards are going like crazy up.
But they're going bonkers already.
Yeah,
I'm so excited for this baseball season.
Exactly. And then, this year's NFL draft class 2021 is going to be freaking crazy as far as, there's 5 quarterbacks that are projected to go in the top, in the first round. And that's just also going to be insanity as far as once the big products come out. So, anybody that's scared of this, don't worry about it at this point, and hop in, find what you want to collect. Are you getting in for personal collection? Are you getting in to invest? Are you getting into flip? Whatever it is that you're doing, do your homework and look for good values and get in.
That's just it. Do your homework, collect what makes you happy, stay within your budget, and the more information gather, you can venture out further than where you start.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're going to move into the next segment of the show. We're going to be talking about good investments and good possibles for either flips and or longer-term investments. So I'm going to be demonstrating a few things on screen. So for those of you that are listening, we'll do the best we can to describe everything. As we were talking about, not every aspect of the card market is screaming up and quadrupling in value. The best example of that is ultra modern basketball cards. And when we said ultra modern, to clarify, that's 2012 and to current. Last year's draft class was amazing. Basketball was, going nothing but up during last year's basketball season. And, we saw tremendous growth for Zion, for Luka, for Trey, for Ja Morant, and all the other popular ultra modern cards. This year has been a completely different story. This year's draft class is nowhere near as exciting. There's nowhere near the hype and shine on the players that are being drafted this year. And also you're seeing a ton of money flow into vintage basketball. And when we say vintage, we're going to just talk about anything like 2000 and before. Guys like Iverson, guys like Vince Carter, guys like Ray Allen, all their rookies from the 90s, Jordan stuff, even LeBron stuff is rookie stuff is always going up. And those modern cards have taken a beating. It literally got hyped up until tip-off of NBA, and as soon as NBA tipped off, within the first week of that, excitement died down, and prices have been dropping for the last 2 months. So,
do you think that's due to the draft class?
I think it's due to a little bit to both factors. I think that the fact that nobody gives a shit about anybody in this year's NBA draft class other than LaMelo Ball for the most part. People are looking for values, and Wiseman's playing well, Anthony Edwards is playing well, but nothing exciting. Guys are dropping 10, 12 points a game. Who cares? It's not SportsCenter dunks from Morant and Zion, even Kobe White and Tyler Hero just provided exciting highlights. People love to watch that. And an occasional nice pass from LaMelo isn't getting people excited. And I think that and a shift in money going into vintage cards, the money's flowing out of ultra modern basketball.
Yeah,
So
I think it's kind of following suit how baseball kind of progressed over that last summer. You know, during the first COVID summer, everything's a little screwy, but people started finding their Frank Thomases and their Ken Griffey Juniors and their late '70s, early '80s rookie cards. And I think basketball is kind of following suit now in terms of searching out that vintage.
yeah, I mean there's a couple of reasons for it. There's a lot of chatter from influencers like Gary Vee and other people talking about vintage basketball and how they think that ultra modern is overrated, which is, he raises good points in that, a lot of these guys aren't proven yet. Like bowl prices last year were absolutely out of control. And it's like, what the fuck has Bol done in the NBA other than he's tall and he could potentially maybe be good, but other than that, he's not proven. But guys like Allen Iverson, or Vince Carter, these are all Hall of Fame guys. Their careers are already over, so there's no risk that they're going to be a dud. And I think a lot of times people don't want to risk their money. So I got Zion's 2019 Prism PSA 10 on the screen right now. This is the chart. We're looking at Card Ladder. I do subscribe to Card Ladder. They are not a sponsor. This is completely just because I think they're a fantastic charting tool for cards. I'm looking at these three levels here of what is known as support in a trading market for Zion's cards. And
Should I be seeing this, sir?
No, it's
Okay.
on it's on screen for people that are watching at home, but you're not able to see it.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah, exactly. So this chart is almost identical to a few other charts that we're going to look at. This is the tip off of the season. As soon as the season tipped off, I mean, it's just straight back down into and settled into this range. So if you feel that Zion's going to be that once in a lifetime type of player and that he's going to have a solid career, I'd be looking at buying right now. I think you have really good support at the 500 to 600 level for these cards, and could be buying opportunities if this is something that you're looking to add to your collection, and or looking for an opportunity to flip. We peaked out, almost double the $500 on a couple of occasions, so it's a good flip for you if he goes on a run and is playing good basketball, or Pelicans make the playoffs, etc. So it's something that could be a good price to get into now. The only thing that concerns me about this card and then the next card that we're going to be talking about, the Luka card, is the population. There's 16,000 Lukas and 15,500 Zions. Those populations are way out of control for a PSA 10 card. Unfortunately, Panini just does a really good job printing these cards, and they're modern and people are submitting them in volume, and there's a ton of population, so there's no scarcity. So is there a possibility it can get below these levels? 100%. If you look at Luka, the chart is almost identical. You had a huge run up over the summer, a dip down in the fall, and then another run up for the start of the season, and now it's you can buy it for $1,200 or $1,300. And
how many of those are there?
16,000 on the dot as of right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm old school collecting, but where I come from, that's not rare.
No, 100%, and that's the problem. But at the same time, you have a ton of FOMO in this market. And once people are like salivating, waiting for that price to come down. And if you look at the chart, this price got to about 1280, and people are like, all right, we're not going to let it go down any further. We're going to start buying. And you saw it basically bounce right off that 1280 level, and people are buying again at between 1280 and 1400. So that seems to be the range for this card right now.
And I think another factor to keep in mind with anything right now, there are so many more people looking to buy right now than 3 to 5 years ago.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, so that's it plays a role in every decision. You can look at all these charts, but you got to take that into account. There's that many more people throwing their money around now.
Yep, it's a global marketplace. People from countries all over the world buying cards, and you're seeing a ton of stuff getting purchased with Luca, with Zion, with Ja. People are looking for their entry into it, and if you're a basketball fan, I mean, Luca, along with a couple other guys, is top 5 in the NBA. He's having a great career, and if the Mavericks were better, his cards may be, higher value. So if Cuban gets off his ass and brings some talent in the offseason and Mavs get better next season, those cards could pop back up to the, $1,900 to $2,000 range.
Yep.
Next card we're going to take a quick look at is Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero had so much hype last year in the NBA playoffs in the bubble. He was under the spotlight. His cards shot up like mad. And, this is when you saw like just huge booms in his cards. But similar to everybody else, you had a minor spike around when the season started, and then just straight down. And then right now, if you think Hero is going to have a good career, or he's going to show some more flashes of brilliance, you can get a PSA 10 for $160. And the populations on these are 3,400. So population, I don't believe, is a factor in this drop off. I think it's more in with the money going into vintage. And the illustration of that is with this card. We're going to look at just one example. 1996 Topps Allen Iverson PSA 9. It's not a tremendously expensive card. Iverson's a Hall of Famer. And, if you look at it, it's a straight up arrow. I mean,
Yeah,
literally
a big straight up arrow.
Big straight up arrow. I mean, this card you could have gotten when the NBA season tipped off for $50. Last purchases are $300. That's 6x. This is where the money is right now in basketball. This is where people are buying. This is where people are putting their money. It's very, very obvious. So I think your buying opportunity for this week, or not this week, but at least for the foreseeable future until the vintage market cools off a little bit, is modern basketball. Find guys that were overhyped, last year, but are solid players and could have solid careers and solid value, that you can get for where their prices were last year, during their rookie seasons or during their second years. Look for those types of values for ultra modern basketball. And jump in and grab. And if you start to see it collapse even more, you can get out with very little risk. There's still going to be people that are wanting to buy.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, those charts are mind blowing right now in terms of the shift there, but
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's this, and we're going to talk about this in upcoming episodes. This hobby is completely different than it was 2 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. It's becoming a real market, and I think that's where we're going to be at. And you have to do your homework.
Yeah, it's changing. It took me a while to conform to some of the new ways in the hobby and some of the new types of collectors, flippers, sellers that were coming in. I fought it for a while, but I mean, like anything, there's change in it, and you got to kind of adapt and conform. And I like what I like. I don't like what I don't like, and we move forward.
Yeah, there's plenty of opportunities for everybody. So it's just a matter of just finding your niche, finding your spot. All right, let's move on. We're gonna kick it over to you, talk a little baseball. The next segment of our podcast is what we like to call lottery tickets. Lottery tickets, for anybody who doesn't know, is basically we're looking to throw some guys out here that you can get for cheap. That could turn into something huge and get you a big return. So, once again, not meant for investing advice. Anybody that we're really talking about, we don't have any personal interest in. We don't care as far as whether or not you go out and buy or whether or not they explode into 10 or 20x. We're not trying to pump and dump. Just guys that we think, over the next year or two could return huge values, and you can get their cards right now for relatively cheap. So kick us off a little baseball.
I'd pump the brakes on huge value returns with lotto tickets, but
well, I mean, if you could get 2 or 3x your money,
Oh
That's
yeah, that can be done.
that's huge return. I mean, if you go into the stock market, you go to a stockbroker and say, "Hello, guy at Merrill Lynch, I want 3 times my money." He's gonna kick you out of his fucking office because it's unrealistic. I mean, markets, and other than like Bitcoin, people or GameStop. I mean, people are regularly 10 or 15% is a good year.
Yeah,
So
true.
if you get
Yeah,
3x your money, that's much better than anything else.
yeah, and then when we were deciding what to do with the lotto tickets here, we decided we're going to stay away from like the top 50 prospects and big time established stars already that are still young in their careers and can go up. So I was trying to take somebody outside that group. There's a lot of names that fit in that genre. Um, Today I'm going to go with Austin Reilly, Braves third baseman, former first round pick. He's going to be 24 years old on opening day. He's got 25 to 30 home run potential, power. He's going to be playing the NL East, which should be an absolute bloodbath. He's going to get a lot of attention this year. So, and on a really good Braves team who could potentially win the division. So you're going to have a lot of hype surfacing around that. His first Bowmans are in 2015. PSA 10s are still reasonable. The autographs are at around $150. Raw ones you can grab for less than $100. And if you're more of a rookie card logo type guy or gal as opposed to first Bowman, you can get PSA 10 rookie card PSA 10s for less than $100. And in 2019, rookie card logo raw, you can get most of his autographs in the $10 to $30 range, which is where I would probably look to buy. If I'm looking at Austin Reilly and I'm looking to double up or put a little investment into him, I'm looking at his raw rookie card autographs, anywhere from Bowman's Best. You can see his base autographs for as low as $10, and we get into this season rolling, and he hits a couple April bombs, and boom, there you go. You have yourself a $20 card.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say if I'm in this for pure flip and for pure making money, what's my turnaround time as far as, am I looking for the first like couple home runs and people got some shine and he's got a little bit of, there's an article about him here and there and like people are starting to buy it. So if I buy it at $15 and it goes to $40, $35-$40, is that,
You should do a backflip, sell, and move on.
okay? Fair enough.
Yeah, Austin Riley's going to be a quick flip. I don't see him being a superstar. I just see some Braves hype coming up. He's still a young kid. He can hit the long ball. And should he thrive in the early going and you got in on a $10 autograph from his rookie year, get rid of it.
All right, cool.
And buy what you want.
And we're gonna save the most controversial of today's picks for last. Next, we're gonna talk a little A.J. Dillon, Green Bay Packers running back. This is one of my picks for today. I'm actually gonna bring up eBay auction. The reason why A.J. Dillon has made our lottery pick is not that nobody's ever heard of him or that he has gone unnoticed. He has a strong potential to start. There's two running backs ahead of him. Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams in Green Bay, both are free agents. And if Green Bay decides that they're going to roll the dice and let A.J. Dillon be the starter and he's the number one, you could see some big returns. Right now we're looking at a lot of 5 cards that include 2 autos and 1 triple patch auto that was picked up February 18th, 8:44 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for $64. That's 5 cards for $64, 2 silver mosaics, 3 autographs, and 1 RPA and in there. So you're paying an average of $12 a card. If the Packers don't re-sign Jones and Williams and he's the starter, the first run that he breaks in September, anticipate those cards to be selling for $40-$50 a piece. Especially the autos. You'll find personal collectors, Packer fans, guys that are looking to buy his stuff, his rookie cards, because he could have a great career in Green Bay. You could easily be looking at 4 to 5 times your money. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, listen, they took him in the second round out of Boston College, so they must have plans for him. As much as I hate personally teams that take running backs that early. Not to mention the guy you're wearing, the worst draft pick in New York Giants history.
Saquon, baby. The only New
Yeah,
York Giant fan that doesn't like Saquon Barkley because he would rather have watched us draft Quentin Nelson at number 2 overall
that's right.
instead of Saquon
I will have
Barkley.
support there. I'm not the only one that didn't want Saquon.
Yeah, you're the only one who doesn't like Saquon Barkley,
I
guy.
like the guy. The guy's awesome, but not that. He was the wrong pick. That's
Yeah,
all. He's the wrong pick.
great.
But anyway, listen, they took him in the second round for a reason. If they don't bring, all indications point to that. They have confidence in him being the lead guy. And if this drags on and we get through the draft and they haven't signed anyone yet, I'd feel pretty good about, following Dylan's values and getting in low.
Yeah, and over the next couple months is going to be your window. As football fades and baseball and basketball, new products are out and people are spending less money and less attention on football. These prices could go even lower. We will be talking about the effects of seasonality on pricing in some upcoming episodes. But yeah, I think that he is a potential lottery ticket. You can get his cards cheap right now, potentially even cheaper in a month from now. And just keep an eye on what they do with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. I don't think that there's too much downside. He'll still get playing time, and so if you basically need to turn around and dump him, I don't think you're going to take too much of a loss, if anything, on him. So I think it's a relatively low risk, high reward lottery pick. Now, for the man, the myth, the not so legend, our final lottery ticket of the day, Jacob Eason. Unfortunately,
this is much more interesting an hour ago.
About an hour ago, Jacob Eason, his future prospects took a bit of a hit with the news that Carson Wentz was traded to the Indianapolis Colts. But that only helps my cause and my case more, because his cards should continue to go down and you could be able to get them cheaper. Right now, we're looking at an Obsidian patch auto for $37. This card could be $25 in a few weeks from now because people are going to be all over Wentz. If you don't think Wentz is good, Eason's 6'6". He's got an arm like a freaking cannon. And if he beats Wentz out, or Wentz plays the first 4 or 5 games and sucks, and they sit him down and let Eason play, and Eason throws a couple touchdowns, this card will be $100. I mean, his PSA 10 mosaic cards, autos, are selling for $300 now, which is absurd. But there's still opportunities to get some rookie patch autos for cheap, and just sit on them. Sit on them until the season.
And that's another good point. Sometimes you can look at those cards you believe are absurd and then compare it to the cards that are more affordable. And so if the fact that card is selling for what it's selling for, it tells me there's a lot of people that believe in that value driving upwards. So I'd feel better about getting in on some of the lower end stuff based on that alone. But and listen, Wentz is injury prone, so it's a good shot here. He's going to get a good opportunity.
Yeah, and as I said, he's a freaking side of a barn. He's 6'6". He's huge. He's can throw the ball 60, 70 yards, and the only question around him is his head, and who knows.
He slipped over. He went into the 4th round because of his work ethic alone.
Yeah, so it's just a question of whether or not he learned anything. And I don't. We're not freaking Sports Center anchors. We're not going to analyze this shit. You got plenty of other sports guys you can listen to. The purpose of this is just, you can probably get his autos, especially now after Wentz is a cult, for $25 or less on some of these other brands. Buy them raw. Do your due diligence. Look at the card. Make sure there's no chipping, no corners dinged. It's relatively centered. So if you want to grade it, but I think that if he does become the starter next year, you're looking at $100 cards all day. So you could easily be looking at 4 to 5 times your money. If Wentz comes in and lights it up, then you're looking at probably losing $10 or $15, and the card will be worth $10. So, it's also, once again, relatively low risk with some big reward potential, but it could also fizzle out into a dud. So that's that
As with
is,
most of the hobby, it's a gamble.
yeah, like anything else, you're gambling on value and whatever it is you're buying. There are no sure things, So other than guys who are already retired, those are your only sure things, And even then, they could do something that's against today's modern cancel culture, and then if they're canceled, then all of a sudden their cards are worthless. So who knows? But we'll move on to our 101 section of today's podcast, and that is a very popular question in the hobby right now. People that collected as a kid, and they're hearing stories on the news. They're reading articles on Forbes, on CNN, on Bloomberg about how Mickey Mantle's rookie card sold for $5.2 million, Jordan card sold for $700,000 plus, and they're like, holy shit, I could be rich and not even know it. And more often than not, that is not true, because you dig up a whole bunch of garbage out of the cards in your closet. But in this situation, in case of my boss, because I was telling him about the card market, his response to me was, holy shit, I have two 1986 Fleer Jordans in my garage. So, you never know when you're going to strike gold. So we're going to talk today about those of you that have your cards in your attic, your basement, your garage, wherever it is, what to do with them, where to get started, how to see if they're worth any money. So Bunk, why don't you kick us off here, and let's put this into terms of, I just found a box of cards in the attic that I collected in the 80s and 90s as a kid.
Yeah, well, I think that's just it. You got to put it into perspective. If you're my age, and God forbid, I have a box left in my mom or dad's house or something like that, I'm pretty sure they're worthless because of my age and at the time. Now, with that being said, with what we just talked about with some of the modern dive integrated cards, if you took care of your cards and you have some Hall of Famers in there from those years, that may be worth pulling out, taking a look at the condition and doing your homework and comping out and see if it's something that's worth getting graded.
So where do I start as far as, let's say I have a box of 1,000 cards? What's my first step as far as taking that and whittling it down to something that may be worth money?
Well, what are we talking? Late 80s, early 90s? You just got to pull.
Yeah, let's say 50 guys, 50 years old, 40, let's say between 40 and 50 years old, collected in the early 80s through the mid 90s, somewhere around there. I mean, obviously, if you have a box of like 1950s, 1960s cards, that you really need to try to get some help with and look up basically almost every card to see if they're worth money. I mean, because even poorly graded superstars from that era is worth a ton of cash right now.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you just got to go through and pull the names out. I mean, the majority of that stuff, if they're serial numbered at all, they're really high. I mean, the old stamped serial numbers used to be 10,000. It was actually comical. There's not a lot there that's ultra rare. In some cases, there's
when you say 10,000, you're talking about a print run of 10,000, not the card
a print run of
10,000.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I know another thing that's become popular lately is some of these 90s inserts that are graded and a little bit on the rare side. So it's a lot. I mean, you literally got to hit to the computer, hit to an eBay listing, use one of the known comp sites out there, and you're literally typing these cards in. I mean, personally, for me, I know a lot of people don't put a lot of stock in price guides anymore, and I 50% understand why and agree with it. But a database like Beckett.com, you can find every card imaginable or every card ever made there, and at least get yourself a starting point for data in terms of scarcity and potential price.
Yeah, just don't pay for price guides at this point. There's plenty of free resources out there. 130 Point is a popular site. There's some free lookup stuff on Beckett. You can always go to eBay and go to completed sales. This is not a situation where you just open a box and all of a sudden you're rich. You really need to dig through the cards. Guys that had good careers, you put in a separate pile. Guys that you've never heard of that played 4 seasons and amassed a total of 14 hits over the course of their career is garbage. You might as well just throw it out, or give it to your children to play with. But it's not worth any money. That is the biggest annoyance for people in the hobby, for people that are getting asked questions outside of the hobby. It's like, hey, here's my, Dale Murphy card from like 1988. Is this worth anything? And it's just like, no, that is just garbage. Throw it out.
But that's the key. The majority of the stuff, if you're our age, you're going to find is going to be junk. You got to take the time to go through it, separate the Hall of Famers. Did you take care of it? I mean, I have patients all the time. They know I collect cards. They bring me in a box, and it's just they're just thrown in there, and I gasp, and I'm just appalled by this shoebox full of cards. Now, thank God, usually there's nothing in there worth saving, but yeah, if they weren't well kept and they weren't in a binder, then you're going to struggle to find something worth collecting. Pull out what you like, pull out something you think you might collect, your favorite team, and just use that as a starting point. And then start dabbling in the Twitter and the eBay and the Beckett and see what interests you. Because today's landscape is way different than, I mean, I know people that have just came in the hobby. They didn't even know they had, they stopped collecting before they started putting relics in cards, and they were freaking out the other day over that.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you do find, you're looking for Hall of Famers, you're looking for rookies of Hall of Famers, and that's a good starting point. And then even at those cards, you want to whittle those cards down to cards that are well centered, cards that the corners aren't dinged up, cards that don't have any scratches or marks on the card themselves. These are the cards that are actually going to be worth your time and money to take interest in. And we'll be putting out resources on our website and through our social media as far as, if you feel that you want to get these cards graded, where you can reach out to and who you can talk to send those away to get graded. And for those of you that don't know what grading is, you're sending your cards out to PSA is one grading service. Beckett BGS is another grading service, to have them evaluate the condition of the card and tell you that it's on a scale of 1 to 10, closer to 10 the better. And rookies from some of the 80s and 90s that are 10s can be worth thousands of dollars, especially in basketball. Rookie basketball, vintage basketball is worth huge money. Baseball, there's definitely some good stuff. Rickey Henderson, 1980 PSA 10, just sold for $150,000 the other day. So there's definitely some diamonds out there, but don't think that you're going to be rich just because you have a box of cards from the 70s, 80s, 90s in your attic. 50s and 60s, if you have some big name players in there, there's definitely a good shot that you can make some good cash. But always look at values, comp stuff out, be educated about your stuff, and don't just hand it over to somebody and trust that they're going to do right by you.
I like it.
Alrighty, and if you do have any questions in regards to, questions about the hobby, stuff that we've talked about, send us an email, info@sportscardadvantage.com. We do have a website that is coming soon. As I said before, this podcast is being recorded on February 18th. Hoping that website will be up in the next couple of weeks. So, check back in there and give us a look. Now we're going to get to the fun part of the show here. We're going to talk about That's a Bet. Bunk and I are not seeing eye to eye on this next subject here, and we're going to get into it a little bit. So I am somewhat new to the hobby, other than, I'm that guy. I'm 41 years old. I collected cards as a kid. I stopped collecting a long, long time ago. Bunk and I have been friends for about 30 plus years, and maybe about 6-8 months ago, he's like, dude, you should get back into the hobby. I'm like, what the fuck hobby are you talking about? He's like, guy, you got to get back into cards. It's huge money, good money to be made. So I started doing some research.
I sent him an Adam Dunn card to change his mind.
Yeah. About 3 months ago, there were, Jordan, the 86 Fleer Jordan was starting to get a lot of hype. it was obviously well out of the money I wanted to spend. So Fleer made a 1996 Decade of Excellence reprint of the 86 Fleer rookie card. And
Reprint 1996. Those are your takeaways.
yes, reprint 1996. For those of you that don't know, the 86 Fleer is the iconic Jordan card. They made it an exact reprint of it in 1996. They called it Decade of Excellence. So there's an opportunity to buy this card, Decade of Excellence, 1996 PSA 10 for about $250 to $300. So what do? I say, hey, my friend Bunk, here's a link to an eBay auction. Should I pick this card up? Because my brain says, you know, it's a reprint. I can have the card that looks exactly like the iconic card, but this is something that I can afford, a couple $100. And what was your response?
That's stupid.
That's stupid was his response. So I trust my friend Bunk and say, okay, that's stupid. This is a waste of money. I'm going to just put it off and not buy it. The other day, I happened to come across the same 1996 Decade of Excellence PSA 10 Michael Jordan card, and it's selling for $1,200. So if I would have bought the card at $250 to $300 a few months ago, I would have 4x'd my money over the last few months. So I then sent the auction link to Bunk and said, is it still stupid? And his response was,
yes, it's still stupid.
Yes, still stupid. So the basis for today's bet is, I said, well, I think Jordan's stuff's still going to keep going up. And today's bet is the 1996 Decade of Excellence PSA 10 Michael Jordan Fleer reprint will hit $3,000 in value, is my side of the bet. And what is your side of the bet?
Well, I've already won the bet, but my side of the bet is that it'll be less than $20 raw. Is that what we decided?
Well, you said it'd be worth $20. So
$20.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a PSA 10 Jordan event. All right, let's be clear. There is a definite reprint marketplace that exists. There are people that like reprints.
Now he's backpedaling.
No. This card is still garbage. But people like reprints. It's going to hold some sort of value. I did you a favor. It's going to be back to maybe $200. Now, yes, you could have flipped it and made a couple bucks. My bad.
About $1,000, but yeah, you know, who needs $1,000? You know,
for the purposes of the bet, the card's going to be back to where you would have bought it at. If you look at some of the raw versions of it and the bootleg rating copies of it, they're not selling well. If this card had any sustainability, the bootleg rated versions would be through the roof. People would go on YouTube, crack it open, and resubmit the PSA and BGS, which is going to be a whole nother episode that annoys the crap out of me. But this card's not sustainable. It'll crash. It'll be back where you bought it at low or lower in 6 months.
Well, I didn't buy it because you told me not to buy it. So I don't have it sitting.
Then I'll tell you how much of a favor I did you.
I don't have it sitting in my possession. Do we think it's a good buy? Do I think it's a good buy now? Maybe. But for $1,000, I'm not putting my $1,000 at risk. I would have put my $200 at risk. So then we'll iron out the terms. I will say that this card will hit $3,000 before it hits $200 again. So that is the terms of this bet. The Jordan 1996 Decade of Excellence PSA 10.
Absolutely dip below 200 before it hits 3,000.
Okay, so that is our bet. Please head to our social media channels. You know, throw some comments up there. We'll try to throw a post up for you. You know, we want to hear your side of the story, or drop us an email, info@sportscardadvantage. Tell us what you think. We'd love to see it. We'll check back in on this bet here in a couple months and see where the value is. We got one more segment. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Definitely gone a lot longer than we anticipated, but we got one more thing we want to talk about today, and that is, our peanut gallery. We like you guys to send us questions on through social media or through email. We have a question that has come into us through email about Joe Burrow, and he's starting to see articles right now about Burrow starting to be able to run again and getting ready for next season. Bunk is a physical therapist. So, I thought this question was awesome for us, especially for our first episode. A lot of you that are in the hobby have a ton of money tied up into Joe Burrow and assume that he's going to be a rock star of a quarterback through his career. And, quarterbacks in the NFL sell. They're the best value for any, NFL card. So if Burrow goes on to have a huge career, that's going to be huge value, huge upside. But his knee got turned into paper mache at the end of 2020. So that becomes a concern whether or not he's going to have sustainability issues, injury issues, and if he doesn't play full seasons, does that, that will drastically affect the value of his card. So Bunk, give us layman's terms, the extent of his injury, and whether or not you think that it's going to have any kind of long-term impact on his career as far as the amount of time he's on the field or his ability to play.
Yeah, no, I don't see any immediate long-term concerns here. I mean, he's an elite athlete with an elite surgeon and elite trainers bringing him back. Sure, he had ligamentous damage, so what that means essentially is the knee is unstable. That's why you have surgery. You repair the stability, and then he's gonna get super strong and get back on the field. His surgery was early December, so by most ACL protocols, especially somebody of his stature, he should be ready to go week 1, barring any setbacks. So I mean, that's something.
No impact on speed, his ability to run, anything that could potentially lead to lesser stats based on this injury.
No, not immediately. I mean, look at all the people who thrive after ACL now. ACL repairs now are well advanced than they were, say 8 to 10 years ago, for example. I mean, look at Adrian Peterson's season after his ACL. I mean, you can still be a monster. You can still be a monster for a long period of time. Will he have to take better care of himself? And would I be concerned if he had multiple injuries to that knee? Yeah, I would. But in the short term, I see no reason to question his durability. I don't think he has any other huge injury history that would concern me. So as far as long term, I'd be in on Joe Burrow. And 3-5 years in, if he's starting to get gimpy and missing games because of the knee, then I'd start questioning it, because then maybe it's not holding up the way it should. But as far as can he have a 10-year career and play at the high level that we saw at in the little glimpse last year and in college, yeah, I see no reason why that's not going to be the case.
All right. Well, Bengals are projecting a wide receiver or offensive line in the first round. So, Burrow's back on the field. Keep buying Joey Burrow. You heard it from Sports Card Advantage, Stephania Bell. And thanks, guy. Appreciate it.
It's terrible.
That is going to wrap it up for us today. Any final comments from you, Bunk?
No, sir. A lot of fun. Look forward to the next one.
All right, absolutely. We're going to be coming at you at least once a week at the beginning. Hopefully, eventually, we're going to start adding in a second segment where we're going to be interviewing people in the hobby, breakers, sports card shop owners, collectors, etc. So eventually, we'll try to make it twice a week. But for now, you'll see us once a week. We really appreciate you tuning in. And you want to talk to us, send us an email, info@sportscardadvantage.com. Thank you.